Hello and a very good morning. You're watching World is One News WION. I'm Shivangi Shukla, and in the next 30 minutes, we'll take you to the top developments from across the world in WION Speed News. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo underscored the need for unity in the Gulf during a brief visit to the Saudi capital on Sunday. Washington aims to muster support among allies for new sanctions against Iran. Newly appointed Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has said the United States is deeply concerned by Iran's ambition to dominate the Middle East. The former CIA director also said the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action was very flawed and the U.S. would withdraw from the deal if it can't be fixed. Pompeo's comments come following his meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday. Hundreds of Rohingya refugees line the refugee camp road holding placards and banners demanding citizenship, justice and rights as a United Nations Security Council delegation visited the camp in Bangladesh. The UNSC envoys are visiting the camp as part of their mission to get a first-hand view of the crisis. Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh have made emotional pleas to the UN Security Council for help to return safely to their homes in neighbouring Myanmar and for justice. Several tearful women and girls threw themselves at British UN Ambassador Karen Pierce as it recounted what had happened to them. United Nations officials and aid groups have voiced concern that the coming monsoon season will worsen the humanitarian situation in the refugee camps. Comedian Michelle Wolf roasted U.S. President Donald Trump and members of his administration with an arsenal of controversial jokes during the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner. Wolf slammed Trump for his proposal to arm teachers in the classroom and garnered groans from the audience for her remarks on abortion. Two Syrian refugee families have left Turkish city of Istanbul to return to their homes in Aleppo. Last month, the Istanbul municipality facilitated the repatriation of 35 Syrians to Afrin and Jarablus following the recent Turkish military operations in northern Syria. While many Syrians feel it is now safe enough to return, others are not so convinced and still want to continue with the life they have built in Turkey. Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Aboul has met French Foreign Minister Jean Le Drian in Cairo. Le Drian is set to meet Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry later to discuss regional issues including Libya, Syria and the inter-Palestinian reconciliation. Pope Francis has welcomed the positive outcome of the inter-Korean summit that took place on Friday. The Pope said that they accompanied with his prayer the courageous commitment taken by North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and South Korean President Moon Jae-in to achieve a path of sincere dialogue for a Korean peninsula free from nuclear weapons. An oak tree gifted to U.S. President Donald Trump by French President Emmanuel Macron has gone missing from the south lawn of the White House. The tree came from the Bellevue Woods, the site of a World War I battle in 1918 where 9,000 Americans died. Macron had said the tree would be a reminder of these ties that bind us. The White House was not immediately available for comment on the tree's current whereabouts. Street protests continued in the streets of Armenia's capital Yerevan despite the ruling Republican Party announcement on that it would not put forward a candidate for the post of Prime Minister. Demonstrations against the party forced Prime Minister Sergei Sargsyan to resign as Prime Minister last Monday. The Armenian parliament is due to pick a new Prime Minister today. Thousands took to the streets in the Spanish city of Pamplona to protest against a ruling that cleared 5 men of the gang rape of a teenager at the San Fermin Bull Running Festival 2 years ago. Shaken by the scale of protests, the Spanish government said it would consider revamping the criminal code to ensure that sex crimes were punished more harshly. Tourists across China have started their 3-day International Labor Day holiday mostly by visiting scenic spots or attending different events and shows to entertain themselves. A large-scale aquatic water show kicked off in Hangchang city of Shanxi province 1 day ahead of the long holiday. The 40-minute show used world-leading technologies to present the broad and profound Chinese culture. The world's top aerobatic pilots continued their dazzling stunt performance 3 days into the air show in China's Henan province. The show has gathered 233 flight vehicles in over 80 types at the Shanxi airport for its general aviation exhibition aimed at to build a general aviation center for business and communications. Another 25 leading international companies from 11 countries have signed contracts to take part in the first China International Import Expo in November in Shanghai. The total number of participant companies has increased to over 1,100. Among the 25 companies, 20 are in the manufacturing industry such as machinery and automotive, and 8 are Fortune 500 companies. The Chinese Air Force has released a promo video recapping its recent flights over China's island of Taiwan. The video was released in multiple languages, including English and Japanese and Chinese dialects. The background music features several widely known Chinese patriotic songs. Lebanese living in France went to the polls on Sunday to vote in Lebanon's general elections, the first time expats have been allowed to cast their vote. 19 polling stations were set up in France for the first time in Lebanese parliament. The 128 seats are split evenly, 64 for Christians and 64 for Muslims, including Druze, with the two halves further divided among 11 total sects. A herd of cows were watched by over 1,000 people as they got their first chance the year to go out in the green fields at a farm in Stockholm after a long, dark winter. The annual cow release has long been a tradition among farmers in the Nordic region, and more farms are opening up and hosting events to give the city dwellers the chance to see the animals their milk comes from up close. Russian large landing ship Minsk has returned to European enclave of Kaliningrad from Syria. The Marines met their families and friends after 6 months at sea, and some were also officially awarded for their service apart from multiple sea drills in the Mediterranean. The landing ship also carried out supply tasks for operations in Syria. U.S. President Donald has threatened to shut down the federal government in September if Congress did not provide more funding to build a wall on the border with Mexico. Trump made a similar threat in March to push for changes in immigration law that he says would prevent criminals from entering the country. The government briefly shut down in January over immigration. Eight weeks after the poisoning of former Russian spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia in UK, some businesses in the city of Salisbury say that business is suffering. Skripal, who is a colonel in Russian military intelligence, betrayed dozens of agents to Britain's foreign spy service, was found unconscious on a bench in the city of Salisbury along with his daughter on March 4th. Former Bolivian dictator Garcia Meza has died after suffering successive heart attacks. The 88-year-old former soldier arrested in Brazil and extradited to Bolivia in March 1995 was serving a 30-year prison sentence for crimes during his dictatorship. He reportedly spent more time in hospital than in prison for multiple illnesses. The Indian foundry industry is facing a crisis owing to the rise in raw material costs consequent to a tax hike by neighboring country China. And due to China's policy change for environmental law enforcement, many raw material factories in China were not functional for 3 months, which resulted in the shortage of raw materials in the Indian industry. The raw materials constitute about 65% of the total production cost in the foundry industry. A charitable trust in Mumbai has launched a free bike ambulance service to help patients and enable their swift movement through traffic in case of an emergency. The foundation, backed by a local lawmaker, has come up with the idea, which will carry patients to hospitals free of cost in order to make them cover long distances in short period of time during the golden hour, as sometimes ambulances get stuck in traffic. People continue to struggle under mounting heat and the consequent health effects in different parts of the country. The rising mercury level has rendered people concerned as they prefer to stay home rather than facing the scorching sun. Hundreds of local residents, tourists and motorheads revisited history at an exhibition of a fleet of bygone beauties on the wheels in Goan capital Panaji. The exhibition witnessed a parade of the finest luxury and sports cars, some of which dated back to 1900. Among other, over 65 cars and 50 bikes on display were timeless beauties ranging from Fiat, Harley-Davidson and others. A second edition of Goa Vintage Bike and Car Festival was organized with an aim to promote tourism in the state. The doors of Kedarnath temple in Uttarakhand were reopened for devotees on Sunday after remaining closed for 6 months due to snowfall. Devotees stood in long queues as they awaited their turn to offer prayers to Hindu god of destruction, Shiva. The temple was decorated spectacularly with flowers in the picturesque foreground of ice-capped Himalayan hills. Two cargo vessels passing from under the country's Pamban Bridge in Rameshwaram city made for a spectacular sight on Sunday. A cargo vessel weighing 1,000 tons travelling from the Odisha Dhamra port to Gujarat Sikka port was one of the two ships that passed through, drawing visitors to watch the opening of a huge double-leafed bascule bridge. Fishermen in Rameshwaram city of Tamil Nadu took up repair work of boats utilizing the 61-day fishing ban period imposed by the state government. Every year, a ban for 61 days is enforced on fishing by the state authorities from April 15 to May 29 during the breeding season of fishes to conserve fish stock in the sea. Reports suggest that Bollywood actors Deepika Padukone and Ranveer Singh will engage in matrimony by the end of the year 2018. The families have reportedly hired a wedding planner to choose a location for the event. The ceremony is likely to host only close friends and family.